Well, hello everyone, and you're welcome. Today, what we're going to do is to use Aseprite and build a very basic, simple sprite. So if it's the first time you're using the software, it's actually a fun software, very classic, happy sprite interface. That's just pixel art. Beautiful. So let's begin. Now, in case you don't have Aseprite, because the Aseprite is about 20 bucks, that's $19.99. That's 20 bucks. So in case you want to just try it, you can try the program by clicking on trial version, but there's a version of Aseprite that's actually free, and that's Libra Sprite. So it's a librasprite.github.io, and you can download that for Windows. And if you download LibreSprite, it's going to be in a zipped file, so you can unzip that package and it's going to look somewhat like this. So if I go to file and create new, and I do 32-bit by 32-bit, this is what you actually get, right? So this is LibreSprite, similar to Aseprite, but it's free, but has limitations. One of the most obvious limitations is the absence of a tile map system. But hey, it's a free software, doesn't get new updates, but that's just by the way. So with that being said, I'll just close LibreSprite and close this, and I'll also close this one as well. So when you open up Aseprite to create a new project, you have this splash screen that shows you, the recent versions and all of that, recent files. Let's just go to file and click on new. Now, when you click on file new, you're going to be prompted with an option to create a new file size. So I'll do something like, let's do 64, or let's do 32 by 32 pixels. We can always increase the size. I'll leave the background transparent and I'll click OK. And now we actually have this interface. Now the palette might be different from yours. So we can also click on this and say edit palette. I set this to medium size or small size. I just like it being large like that. Or we can just look for built-in presets and override the basic color presets that we have here. So you can see some classic, Game Boy presets, some Commodore presets, Monokai, Minecraft. You can have a lot of these color presets, and you can even create your own. So I'll just click away. Now, you can use the middle mouse button, hold the middle mouse button, and kind of like grab your canvas and drag around, and you can zoom in to your canvas like that. We can pick a color, so just click on this color. Now we are on black. Now on the right, we have the basic drawing tools. And it's actually nice for us to have a basic comparison with LibreSprite, but it's similar and basically the same thing. The most important tools in Aseprite, it's going to be the pencil tool like that. And the shortcut is B. And you can use the pencil tool to draw any shape like that. I'm just zoomed in. I'll just draw this here. We can click on the preview here at the bottom right to have an idea on how the artwork looks like up close and further away. So let's go ahead and create a first project. And trust me, believe it or not, that's just the basic tools you need. Let's create a few cherries and apply some colors to those cherries, and we'll just wrap it up, because the best way to practice to learn pixel art is to actually practice, not watch a tutorial. So here, if we look down, we have some basic tools here. I'll click the ellipse tool, and this just helps us create our shapes. So I want to have two cherries, just like a classic video game icon. So I'll just click this and drag, and this is going to be the first one, right? So I'll do that. I want it to be a bit circular like that. Yeah, I think that's fine. Now we have this on one layer. If I go over to the layers and click this, we're deselecting that layer. So let's create a new layer. To create a new layer, we could just hit Shift N to have a new layer. And to make things properly organized, I'll hit F2 to rename this. I'll call this cherry. And here on layer 2, I'll hit F2, call that cherry 2. So that's going to be our second cherry. I'm going to pick the elliptical marquee tool and just select that's this tool here. I'll hit Control C to copy, and I'll go to Cherry 2 and I'll hit Control V to paste that. So now if I hit the move tool or hit V, you can actually see we have the same shape, and I'll just drop this down a little bit just to place it in this position so we can have a nice little overlap. Now it's going to look, I can hit escape to move out of that. Let's fill our cherry with a red color. So here you can see we have the color wheel. I'll just select a nice red color. If I click on that, the hash color I'm using is D12424. That's D12424. And I can just drag that to make this really bright red. So that's D1B1B, and you can type this code here. So with that, let's go to the paint bucket tool and click the first one, and let's click on this, and you can see we're filling this up. So I'll go to Cherry 2 and fill this up. Now, the reason why we're working with layers is because you can layer things around like that, which makes it really, really interesting. These are very red cherries, but you know, they actually look super nice. What I'll do is to hit V and move this down like so. And I'll go over here and use V just to move this slightly like that. Right, it's cool. So we can see how this looks like. And we're just creating the flat color. So we're not thinking about any textures yet. So next, let's hit Shift N to create a new layer. And I'll just call this let's call this the stalk, even though that's not stalk, but let's call that a stalk. And what I'll do is to use a slightly greenish color, but I'll just move that slightly towards dark like that. And the hash color code, the hex code is 0E1408. And what we'll do is go back to our pencil tool by hitting B to go back to the pencil tool. And let's just draw out a few stalks. So here, I'll just pick a point around here, and I'll just drag this, move to the right a bit, and just drop it like that. And I'll do the same thing here. Just drag this a bit, and then drag that till we get a shape like this, right? So that's our stalk. Now I want this to be slightly greenish, so I'll go over here, and I'll just drag the value slider till it becomes slightly bright. And I'll use the paint bucket tool and just click over here and quickly fill out this color to make it slightly, oops, if I click away, I'm going to, so we can zoom in and make sure that each one we click away is just replacing that stock color. It just makes it have a nice little variation. Now, what I'll do again is to hit Shift N, and I'll just call this the leaf, just a single leaf, and I'll use this color here. I'll just click on that, and let's look at the hex value. So that's 524B24. 524B24, and I'll just draw a nice, whoops. So I'm actually using the fill tool. So I hit B to go to the brush tool, and let's just draw a nice little leaf shape like that. And I think that's totally fine like that. All right, so we have the two cherries, a nice little stalk, and a leaf shape. That's going to be our flat colors done. So let's go ahead and add a little depth to add some shading to this cherry. So what we're going to do is to go back to our first one, this one, and let's just make it, let's turn off this one. And what I want to do is to make this a nice little dark color here. So I'll hit I to switch to the eyedropper tool, select this color, and I'll just move down a bit. And what I also like doing is to shift the hue like that. So we have a darker hue. So if I hit B, we can see we have a dark value here. I'll just try to make that slightly dark so that it'll be very different, and shift the hue to the right a little bit. So our hex code is 421108. 421108. And what I'll do is just to add a slight, curve like that along the edge here. So I'm going to fill all this with a dark value like that. So just create some kind of, curve gradient here. So I'll do the same thing for the cherry on top. Hit it, cherry on top, like that. And then we'll have just a nice little shade like that. So I think it's totally fine. We can even start from here. So we have two of these. Let's just add a little highlight here, just, to make this super bright. Now we could, if we wanted, create a separate layer for the shading and highlight. So let's hit Shift N, and I'll just call this the lights, like that. And I'll hit I to sample this color, and I'll just move towards this bright pink, like so. And let's click on that and shift our hue just a little bit. So this is what we're going to be using for our bright areas. And the hex value is F07160. And I'll just draw a nice little spotlight like that. And for this one, let's create, let's make it the same, just looks consistent. And that's going to be our highlight. You can see how nice that looks. So let's go to our leaf. So I'll go to our leaf layer, and for the leaf, I'll hit I, and I'll move that slightly down, and also shift the hue towards sort of like green like that, and I'll hit the B key. So the hex value I'm using is 333216. And for that, I'll just drag this here and place it here. You can see how it's looking here. It just looks a bit shaded like so, right? And for the highlight, I'll sample this color and I'll push this up a bit and shift my hue a bit towards left. And the hex value is 947240. And I'll hit B, switch back to the brush tool, and that's going to be my bright section. I might want to just go up a bit and add one here and here, like that. And this is how that looks like. Now we may or may not want to shape the branches, so I'll just go over here and go to the stalk like so. I'll just push this up a bit and desaturate that and push this slightly. So I'm using, if I go back to the brush tool, we can see that here. So the hex value is 2A3D22. So I'll just slap in some of these, not everywhere, but just around it to give it some of that nice little variation. All right. And if we want, we can call this done. We're actually done with our cherries. And you can see how they look. We're not using too much color. Let's add a nice little background to make this really pop. So I'll hit Shift N and I'll just call that BG for background. And I'll just move this down. So I'll just drag this down here. Once you're on a layer, let's say I'm on the cherry layer, we can move this up or down if it turns into the move icon. And for the BG, I'll hit the fill tool and use a bright cyan color to have this object in the background like that. And to add a little more effect, let's group everything and move them up. So I'll click the leaf layer, hold Shift, click the cherry layer, and what I can do from here is just move this. So it's not really moving like that. So let's right click. And I don't want to merge everything down. Let's go to new group. And let's make sure everything is in the group. So I'll drag cherry to the group. Sorry. So I'll click on the cherry alone and go over here and drag that and place that. Make sure the group's open so we can drag an object. So cherry 2 is not in the group. So we'll just drag it and place it here. So now it's in the group. If we turn it off, we can see what's in the group or not. So let's open it and drag the lights into the group like that. And let's grab the stalk and put the stalk in the group. Let's close the group, turn it off, and we have everything in the group. So now I believe we should be able to select and move that group up. And what we want to do is just add a little shadow here. Now you can see that our pixel art is not really, there's no space at the bottom. So what we can do is to hit C. So when we have a C like that, what we can do is to increase the canvas size. So I want to increase it by 10 pixels, right? So we can do 32. So you can see plus 10 pixels, like so. And we can hit C again. And here for the height, we can see plus 10 pixels. So that's how you can increase your canvas size. So here for our background, let's go to the fill, select this cyan color. So I hit I, hit G, and fill this background. So now we can move our object up like so. And then here at the bottom, we can add a nice little shape. So I hit Shift N. And what I'll do is to go over here to the ellipse tool. Now we can have the filled ellipse tool. I'll just click the filled ellipse tool like so, and make sure that we're at the top. So I'll click the layer, move it to the top, and okay, we're actually using a color here, but it's not a dark color. So I'll use this and just fill that up a bit. And now you can see the color we have. I don't like that. So I'll just select it using the marquee tool and delete that. And I'll try that again. So I'll just go over here, fill shape tool, and just draw a nice little shape here. And what we'll do is just put that at the bottom of the group. So I'll drag this, put that underneath the group. And what we can do is just fade that layer out. So we can reduce the opacity. So I'll go to opacity and let's drag this down like that, just to show that, hey, our cherries have a nice little floor there. And there you have it. So we'll click on that and call that the shadow. Let's not forget the shadow like that. And I'll open the group and put the shadow in the cherry group like that. And we can close it. Now we can lock this group and we can call our group cherries final. All right, so that's our cherries final.